Well, everyone, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. Again, my name is JDavis, and we continue to stream stories of entrepreneurship, leadership, and how entrepreneurs deal with this economy. And exciting always to check in with Mark Furman, Director, Shareholder, Tarlow, Breed, Hart and Rodgers, for our segment, Entrepreneurship and the Law. Welcome back, Mark.
Hey, Jeffrey. Great to
Hi,
see
you too. Well, last week we talked about a trial.
We did, and we have a verdict in the Trump case brought by the district attorney in New York, guilty. There were 34 counts, but it sort of all related to the same thing. But the jury, from all reports, was quite engaged throughout the trial. They asked some questions during their deliberations. They wanted to receive some of the testimony to go over from various witnesses. And so it required a unanimous verdict, and it came down, and there's now going to be a sentencing scheduled. I think it's July 11, and then the appeal rights actually begin, and this will go on for a very long time.
And they already said they're going to appeal.
Yeah,
So,
and there's some novel legal issues, I think, in the case. So I'm not going to predict what the outcome of the appeal is, but, we have this legal process going forward simultaneously with an election, and the sentencing is going to be right before the Republican convention, where it appears that Trump will become the Republican nominee. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is prosecuting Hunter Biden, and there has been a jury has been impaneled, and that case will be going on this week and next week. And it has great political implications too, as the son of the sitting president. And I know one of the allegations is that he falsely answered a question under oath on a form in order to get a firearm. And there's some, it's going to be interesting testimony, and I'm sure the Biden campaign is not anxious to have this going on at the time as well.
and he was having an affair with his deceased brother's wife, and she's involved with the whole thing, and she's a witness. So none of these cases are without their little sizzling side shows.
That's right. So apparently she found the firearm in his vehicle, and she has a couple kids, and she took it to a dumpster and threw it out. And I don't know, there's apparently some text messages between them, and I don't know, it's all not so much about public policy, but a lot about it seems like affairs, catch and kill, non-disclosure agreements in the Trump situation, and then this Hunter Biden situation has its own set of facts that are completely unrelated to the future of the country, I think. So, you just can't separate things that readily from politics in an election season. I'm not sure you ever can, but certainly at this time, at this moment, with this really unprecedented situation, jury having convicted former President Trump. He's the nominee, will be the nominee of his party. President Biden running for re-election against a former president. The Biden administration being accused of raging lawfare, although it's a district attorney in New York that's prosecuted, but he's an elected official, a Democrat. He ran on a certain platform. It's just hard to remove any of this from the politics. And the Hunter Biden situation also has the kind of unique aspect is there was a plea agreement, and that became a political football, and ultimately the plea deal didn't go through. So now there's a prosecution and a trial, and I'm not, it's just totally connected, the politics and the law in 2024 during this election season.
Well, and surveys do show that the majority of people who vote are just more and more discouraged with what they're seeing and their belief in their government and their belief in their candidates. And, that just seems to be eroding over time.
Yes. I was reading an interesting article the other day. This doesn't have much to do with law, but I found it really interesting. And it was talking about the personal relationship that George McGovern, a man well to the left, and Bob Dole had. And it was saying at its peak, out of 100 senators in this country, 81 of them had served during World War II. So they had this incredible common bond,
right?
That experience, a true existential threat to democracy in our country. And no matter what the politics were, there was, kind of this common experience growing up in that time, serving in the military during World War II. And, it's just very different now where the polarization is so great. And it almost seems like compromise is a four-letter word.
So can we draw any implications here to entrepreneurs? I mean, I can. I don't think entrepreneurs are, they like to have role models as much as anybody else. This is not a good role model for them of good behavior when entrepreneurs are being told to follow the rules as well.
I'd say that something that we frequently talk about, Jeffrey, is that we live in a highly regulated society with so many rules, so many laws, so many regulations, so many ways that entrepreneurs can engage in conduct that could result in them and they're having legal problems, legal penalties, usually civil, but not always civil. And I think entrepreneurs, need to have a team of advisors that they can rely on, who bring to the business a variety of experiences, skills, and whether it's, there's benefits of a board of advisors, a real board of directors, legal representation, financial assistance, and trying to do it alone is, everybody has their sweet spot where they have great expertise and nobody has all the expertise. And so I would just encourage entrepreneurs, business owners to have a team that they rely on. They're going to be the ultimate decision makers anyway. But, frequently people don't know what they don't know. And some extremely successful business people recognize what they don't know. And they want to hear, and they don't need an echo chamber that just tells them what they want to hear. They need people who have real experience and are going to share their honest assessments, even if the business owner doesn't love the knowledge. The business owner can choose to ignore it if they choose to, but it's important to hear what other people think.
Well, and if you would have said to Donald Trump 5 years ago, you could be in court, the Bidens, your son could be in court, they would choose not to be in court. And I think both you and I have experienced in our different professions, many shareholders, many partners, many family businesses threatening that if things don't go the way they want it to go, that they could become litigious. And when you become litigious, it's a last resort and it's never a good solution for anybody. There's always losers. There's some who lose more than others, but it's not a good way to resolve problems. And you got to start much earlier. I know your preference always is to resolve issues before they go to court. My issue is to make sure they never even make it to court. I do work with attorneys all day long, and I'm trying to work with attorneys to make sure that we don't have fights. But there are too many situations where people think fighting is a good solution and I don't think it's a good solution. It's the last resort, and it never ends up being a win. It hurts.
Well, I'm always struck by the number of cases that could have been prevented if there had been early legal advice sought. Once the house is there, some disputes from arising. And I see that all the time.
All right.
So, and usually, the business owner doesn't recognize the danger signs for how another party may react to a situation. And of course, nobody thinks, it seems, that things they put in an email or a text are ever going to be read by the other side. But the reality is they
are. We've been speaking with Mark Furman for our regular weekly segment, Entrepreneurship and the Law. Mark, if someone wants to know more about how not to get in a fight and resolve issues so that businesses and organizations stay more productive, how would they find you?
Best way to reach me is at my email, mfurman, Furman, at TBHR-law.com.
And more legal, political situations to come on future weeks with Mark Furman. Thanks for being on the show again, Mark. I'll see you next week on Radio Entrepreneurs.